Have you ever walked into a room, looked around, and just wanted to leave? Not because anything was wrong, but because nothing felt right anymore? If you've been withdrawing socially as you age, you're not alone, and you're certainly not broken. In fact, this growing tendency to seek solitude isn't a weakness. It's a form of wisdom forged through a lifetime of experiences. As a physician who's spent over 30 years working closely with older adults, I've seen firsthand the quiet transformation that happens with age, and I've lived some of it myself. So today, I want to walk you through 6 psychological reasons you might be stepping back from social interaction, and why that's more than okay. We'll mix in real patient stories, emotional insights, and practical advice. Stick around till the end because I promise this might just help you see your own behaviour in a completely new, empowering light. Number 1. The weight of past betrayals. As time goes on, we accumulate emotional wounds. Some are shallow, others leave scars. We become more protective of our hearts. In my years as a doctor, one of the most common things I hear from patients over 70 is, "I've been burned too many times." These words reflect a profound truth. As we age, we become more discerning about who we allow into our lives. Eleanor, an 81-year-old former hostess of grand dinner parties, once confided in me, "I miss people, but I miss my peace more." There was a certain weight in her voice, a weariness born not just from the passage of time, but from the emotional toll that life's betrayals had taken on her spirit. As we grow older, emotional resilience can seem to weaken, not because we are fragile, but because, quite simply, we've had enough. The scarring nature of betrayal, whether from friends, family, or even strangers, accumulates over the years. The sharp edges soften over time, but the pain doesn't disappear. It settles deeply within us, becoming a part of who we are. What once may have been a passing disappointment now feels like a heavy stone we carry. The trust that was once offered freely becomes a guarded treasure, and the heartbreaks we've endured build walls, not out of fear, but out of the necessity to protect our inner peace. Betrayals, big or small, don't roll off our backs the way they once did. Instead, they take root in our bones. We begin to notice patterns, recognize the warning signs, and grow more adept at seeing when something feels off. This isn't paranoia. It's a survival mechanism shaped by years of experience. In the same way we learn to avoid physical hazards like icy sidewalks or busy intersections, we begin to navigate emotional terrain with greater care. We understand that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how much of ourselves we offer and to whom. Keep a small, trusted circle. In a world where the noise of others can feel overwhelming, find solace in the few who truly know you. Let go of the guilt when you decline invitations, when you choose quiet over company. Your peace is sacred, and it's not selfish to protect it. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates, and you hold the key. Not every invitation needs to be accepted. Not every person requires your attention. You've learned the importance of saying no, not just to protect your time, but to preserve your heart. The more you recognize your own limits, the stronger you'll become in safeguarding your emotional well-being. When we protect ourselves from emotional turmoil, we're not retreating from life. Instead, we're preparing ourselves to embrace what truly matters. Surround yourself with those who bring you joy, those whose intentions are pure and whose presence nurtures your spirit. The rest can fall away. It's not about closing yourself off, but about creating space for what aligns with the peace you've earned. Number 2, the craving for peace over small talk. Shallow conversations no longer hold appeal. We yearn for depth and silence that heals. Harold, a retired salesman, once told me, "I spent 40 years cooking for a living. Now I just want to listen. To birds, to the wind, to my own breath." In youth, we fear silence. It feels like an empty space that we need to fill, often with trivial chatter. As we grow older, however, silence becomes a sanctuary. It's no longer an uncomfortable void, but a place of reflection and inner peace. At a certain age, the constant noise of daily life loses its allure. The endless conversations, often about nothing in particular, begin to feel like a drain rather than a source of connection. The small talk, once a vital part of social interactions, becomes tiresome, and we realize that it no longer feeds our souls. Instead, it feels like a series of superficial exchanges that do little to deepen our understanding of ourselves or others. Peace in this phase of life is no longer just a luxury, it is a necessity. We crave the stillness of a quiet morning, the sound of nature, or the simple act of sitting alone with our thoughts. The hustle and bustle of social events and busy gatherings start to seem overwhelming, and we realise that what we truly desire is a space where we can simply be, without the need for endless chatter. This shift is not a sign of social decline, as many elders fear. Instead, it is a sign of emotional maturity. As we grow older, we become more discerning in our choices. We recognise that the energy we invest in relationships and conversations should be spent wisely. Shallow exchanges no longer satisfy. They feel like noise that distracts us from what really matters. In fact, the desire for deep, meaningful connections becomes even stronger. But now we are more selective about who we invest our time and energy in. Many older adults worry they are becoming antisocial, withdrawing from social gatherings or avoiding events they once enjoyed. But this withdrawal is often a conscious decision to protect their peace of mind, not a refusal to connect with others. As Harold wisely shared, after years of talking for a living, he now values the act of listening, not just to others but also to himself. He understands that there is great power in silence and that sometimes just being present in the moment is the most fulfilling experience. It's okay to say no to gatherings that drain you. You do not have to attend every event or keep up with every social obligation. As you age, the focus should shift from quantity to quality. Seek out relationships and conversations that nourish your soul, that allow you to connect on a deeper level, and that provide a sense of peace and contentment. It is far more fulfilling to spend time with people who understand your need for quiet, who cherish meaningful dialogue over idle chatter, than to surround yourself with those who only offer superficial exchanges. The beauty of aging is that it gives you the freedom to choose. You can cultivate the kind of social life that supports your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Surround yourself with individuals who value the richness of silence as much as they do the depth of a thoughtful conversation. After all, the craving for peace over small talk is not about avoiding people. It's about seeking balance. It's about honouring your own need for peace, reflection, and depth, and finding a way to incorporate that into your life. As you grow older, make room for the stillness that heals and the connections that truly matter. Number 3, the feeling of being misunderstood. As the years pass, the emotional landscape of life shifts in ways that many of us never quite anticipate. One of the most subtle and painful changes is the sense of being misunderstood. This feeling often arises as cultural and generational gaps widen, creating a quiet but heavy distance between older adults and younger generations. These gaps may manifest in different ways, through the language we use, the pace at which we communicate, or the topics we discuss. But regardless of how they appear, they all share a common thread: the feeling of being invisible. Marie, a retired school teacher in her 70s, shared with me one afternoon, "I used to be the centre of attention during family dinners. Now I'm just background noise." It was a simple statement, but the emotion behind it was profound. Marie's lament speaks to the experience of emotional invalidation, the subtle dismissal of one's thoughts, feelings, and presence. It's not necessarily the outright rejection that stings, though that certainly can hurt. It's the quieter forms of dismissal, the moments when your words float into the air but never quite seem to land. This kind of invisibility can be even more painful than being openly rejected, because it feels like your existence is no longer acknowledged at all. I often say to my patients, particularly those in the later stages of life, that the process of aging isn't just about physical changes, it's about an internal transformation. When you've raised children, buried friends, and survived your fair share of personal trials, your inner world becomes incredibly rich and layered. You've lived through experiences that have shaped who you are today. Yet, as the years go on, you may find yourself surrounded by a world that no longer shares your frame of reference. Shallow conversations feel like static in the background of a life that's been filled with deeper meaning. The pain isn't always in being physically alone, it's in feeling like no one truly sees or understands you. To be dismissed or ignored in these later years is not just about feeling neglected. It's about the loss of connection that once made life so vibrant. For many older adults, this shift is not just frustrating, it's isolating. The realization that the world around you doesn't seem to recognize the richness of your lived experience can leave you yearning for deeper connection and understanding. But there is hope. You are not alone in feeling this way, and it's never too late to change the narrative. It's crucial to surround yourself with those who listen deeply, people who don't just hear your words, but value your perspective. Find communities, whether through friends, support groups, or even hobby circles, that prioritize lived experience. Seek out spaces where your thoughts, wisdom, and stories are honored, not just tolerated. You deserve to be heard, not just as a courtesy, but because your voice holds value. Each wrinkle, each grey hair, and every life experience you carry is a testament to a journey that has shaped you into the person you are today. So embrace those who truly see you for who you are. When you are surrounded by people who appreciate you, that sense of being invisible can begin to fade. It's not just about finding people who will tolerate you, it's about finding those who will truly listen and cherish the life you've lived. Number 4, the fear of being a burden. Older adults often withdraw to avoid inconveniencing others. Love becomes quiet restraint. Frank, 84, stopped visiting his daughter because he didn't want to disrupt her life. She has kids, a job. I don't want to be extra weight, he said. This fear is universal. As we age, we often come to believe that our needs, whether emotional or physical, are an imposition. We see the busy lives of our children, grandchildren, and friends and feel that they have enough on their plates without the added responsibility of caring for us. This mindset is not born out of a lack of love, but out of a profound desire to protect others from what we perceive as a burden. It's a form of self-sacrifice, one that often manifests in silence and withdrawal. However, this fear of being a burden is an illusion, prevents us from fully embracing the love and connection that those closest to us are eager to share. Our loved ones don't see our need for help as a burden, but rather as an opportunity to express their care and devotion. The act of helping is often as enriching for them as it is for us. When we resist accepting help, we inadvertently deny others the chance to demonstrate their love, which is something they want to do. This fear can also lead to loneliness. When we isolate ourselves to avoid causing trouble, we inadvertently cut ourselves off from the very relationships that can offer us the greatest comfort and joy. Our children and loved ones may feel rejected or hurt, not understanding why we keep them at a distance. In their eyes, the act of helping is not an inconvenience, but a manifestation of their love for us. By not allowing them to care for us, we risk creating a barrier that diminishes our connections. As a doctor, I remind my elderly patients, your worth isn't tied to your independence. Accepting help is not weakness, it's an invitation for others to express their love. It's important to understand that just as we were once there for our children and loved ones when they needed us, they are now there for us. Accepting their help with grace and gratitude doesn't make us weak, it makes us human. Vulnerability is a bridge to deeper connection, not a mark of failure. And yet the fear persists, shaping our social behaviour. We might feel shame when we ask for help, or we might try to hide our struggles, thinking that our pain is something to be endured in silence. This silence becomes a kind of emotional isolation. We fear that by voicing our needs, we will somehow disrupt the harmony of those around us. But in truth, the real disruption comes from pretending that we don't need help when we do. The emotional toll of carrying this burden alone can be far greater than the physical burden itself. Have honest conversations with loved ones. Let them tell you what you mean to them. Open up about your fears and allow yourself to be vulnerable. Let your loved ones know that you're not rejecting their care, but are simply learning how to accept it. Sometimes this may mean asking for help in small ways, perhaps for assistance with groceries or for someone to simply sit with you for a while. Gradually, these small requests can build a comfort level that makes it easier to ask for more when needed. You are not a burden. You are a gift. The relationships we form throughout our lives are built on the foundation of mutual care, and there is no expiration date for this exchange. When we allow others to care for us, we help keep that cycle of love alive. embrace it. Your loved ones want to be there for you just as much as you were there for them. When you accept their help, you open the door to a deeper, more fulfilling connection that brings comfort, peace, and mutual respect. Number 5, the quiet ending of old connections. Some relationships fade without conflict. We grow apart not always with pain, but often with a quiet ache. Ruth, 73, once told me, "We just stopped calling. Nothing happened. Life just changed." This happens more than people admit. Sometimes we hold on to old relationships even when they no longer nourish us. These silent shifts are a natural part of life's ebb and flow, but they often go unspoken, as if we're hesitant to acknowledge the quiet end of a connection that was once vibrant. It's important to understand that relationships, especially those formed in the earlier years of life, often have specific seasons. Friendships formed in the context of raising children, working at the same company, or living in the same neighborhood often carry a sense of mutual purpose. When that purpose fades, children grow up, jobs change, neighborhoods evolve, the connection can begin to fade too. It's not a betrayal or failure, it's evolution. We outgrow some of our old relationships as we grow into new phases of life. Our needs change, our priorities shift, and sometimes our paths no longer intersect. For example, Ruth and her lifelong friend used to talk for hours about raising children and navigating careers. As time passed, their children became adults and their careers wound down. They moved in different directions and those once common topics faded from their conversations. What they had in common and the foundation of their bond no longer existed. It wasn't that they didn't care for each other anymore, but rather that the circumstances that once kept them close no longer applied. This doesn't always lead to a dramatic falling out. In fact, it often goes unnoticed until one day you realise that the phone calls have stopped and you haven't seen each other in months or even years. The ending is not marked by anger or harsh words. Rather, it is a slow and unspoken acknowledgement that the relationship has reached its natural end. You simply grow apart, and while it may not be painful, there is often a quiet ache. A recognition that something once vital is now quietly fading. There's also an emotional difficulty in accepting this. Many of us are conditioned to believe that relationships should be permanent or that the failure to maintain connections is somehow our fault. The quiet endings can be especially hard to navigate because they don't offer the closure that we might expect from a more dramatic ending. You may find yourself clinging to a past version of a person or to the identity you had when you were part of a certain group. Letting go of those connections can feel like letting go of an old part of yourself. Honour what was, but accept what is. Don't force connections that no longer serve your soul. Relationships are not meant to be preserved at all costs. Instead, recognize when it's time to step back and allow those connections to evolve or dissolve. Just because a relationship ends doesn't mean it was in vain. It served a purpose at a certain time in your life. Celebrate that. It's equally important to make space for new people who align with who you are now. As we age, we often become more attuned to the people who resonate with us on a deeper level. Perhaps in the years when we were focused on raising children or building careers, we didn't have the energy or time to nurture relationships that truly matched our evolving values. Now is the time to invite those people into your life, those who share your passions, your worldview, and your current interests. And remember, not all relationships need to be lifelong to be meaningful. The quality of your relationships matters far more than the quantity. And sometimes the most fulfilling connections are the ones that come when you're ready for them, not when you're holding on to the past. In the end, allowing old relationships to fade without guilt or resentment is one of the most freeing acts you can do for yourself. You are honouring your journey and your growth, and that is something worth celebrating. Number 6, the joy of your own company. Solitude is no longer scary. It's a sanctuary of self-connection and reflection. Gerald, 82, smiles more watching birds than he ever did hosting dinners. "I've got enough stories in my head to keep me company for days," he said. It's incredible how much life changes as we age. At one point, we seek the company of others for validation, for connection, for a sense of belonging. But as years pass, we often find that the truest companion we need is ourselves. Gerald's story is a beautiful example of how solitude can evolve from something feared into a source of deep peace and fulfillment. Loneliness is the absence of others, but solitude is the presence of yourself. The difference is profound and life-changing. Many older adults like Gerald find that they don't need the constant chatter of social gatherings or the noise of a busy life to feel complete. They've come to realize that solitude offers a space for reflection, introspection, and a deeper connection with their own thoughts and feelings. It's in this space that they can reflect on their life's journey, finding joy in the memories they've built and peace in the stillness that comes with growing older. For years, we're taught that solitude is something to avoid, to fear even. We're conditioned to think that being alone is synonymous with being lonely, and that loneliness is something to dread. But as the years pass, we discover that this is not true. In fact, many older adults report that they've never felt more fulfilled than in the quiet moments of their lives where they can be alone with their thoughts and enjoy their own company. There's a freedom that comes with solitude, a freedom that allows us to explore our inner world without distractions. It's in solitude that we begin to understand ourselves more deeply, to appreciate the journey we've been on, and to embrace the person we have become. As we age, we become less reliant on others' approval and more attuned to our own needs, desires, and passions. We realize that we don't need validation from others because we've learned to validate ourselves. Embrace solitude as a spiritual practice. It's not about being alone because you have no one, but about choosing to be alone to connect more deeply with yourself. Take time each day to engage in activities that allow for reflection and self-connection. Journal your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Meditate to quiet your mind and listen to the wisdom within. Go for walks, not just to exercise, but to enjoy your own company and notice the beauty around you. Fall in love with the version of you who needs no external validation. This practice can be deeply spiritual, allowing you to develop a stronger sense of self, peace, and contentment. Solitude also offers an opportunity for personal growth. Without the pressure to conform to others' expectations or keep up with the fast-paced world, we can take the time to explore new hobbies, read books that inspire us, or even learn new skills. The absence of others can become a fertile ground for self-discovery and creativity, where ideas and dreams can flourish without interruption. In solitude, we find the space to become who we truly are, free from the influences of the outside world. In a society that often emphasizes the importance of social interaction and connection, it can be difficult to recognize the value of solitude. But as we age, we have the unique opportunity to shift our perspective. We can begin to see solitude not as something to avoid, but as a sanctuary for self-connection and reflection. It's in this space that we can rediscover ourselves, find joy in our own company, and experience the peace that comes from being at ease with who we are. So, which of these truths resonated with you the most? Was it the weight of betrayals, the joy of quiet, the ache of being misunderstood? Whatever it was, I hope you now realize this. You are not withdrawing from the world. You are returning to yourself. And that's the most beautiful journey of all. As we age, we often find ourselves in moments of introspection, where we are no longer drawn to the noise and chaos that once defined our lives. Instead, we seek something deeper. The distractions fall away, and in that silence, we begin to rediscover the parts of ourselves that may have been lost or forgotten. This isn't a retreat. This is a reclamation of your truth. At Golden Years Balance, we believe aging is not about decline. It's about deeper understanding. It's about the quiet strength that comes with knowing who you are and what you value. It's about discernment, the ability to choose wisely where you invest your time, energy, and heart. And most importantly, it's about protecting the sacred inner peace you've worked so hard to find. The older we get, the more precious that peace becomes, and the more important it is to guard it with intention. So, let this video be a mirror, not of your loneliness, but of your growth. And if someone calls you distant, smile and know the truth. You are not cold. You are clear. You are learning to prioritize your well-being, your emotions, and your happiness. It takes wisdom to know when to step back and honour your own space. And in doing so, you create the energy and environment necessary for the relationships that truly matter to thrive. If this video spoke to your heart, please comment below. Let us know which part felt most true to your journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a message of insight and inspiration from Golden Years Balance. Our community is here to support you on this beautiful journey of growth, peace, and balance. Thank you for being here. Your presence matters more than you know. Every step you take toward honouring yourself is a step toward living a life filled with clarity, purpose, and profound fulfillment.